Good afternoon and welcome to the April 11th edition of the Gold, Goats, and Guns short news. My name is Tom Luongo, and we've got a lot to talk about. A lot has happened in the last 24 hours, and none of it good, frankly. None of it good. But before we get started, if you've not joined the channel before, welcome. It's great to have you, and we'd love to see you subscribe and kind of like and share the video. Do what you have to do. We're going to talk about Julian Assange today. We're also going to talk about how I think this ties into Brexit a little bit, and we're going to do a little commiserating, as it were, because it's kind of necessary at this point. So, before we get started, you can follow my work over at tomluongo.me. I also write regularly at Strategic Culture Foundation, as well as moneyandmarkets.com. My work is regularly featured on places such as Lou Rockwell, Zero Hedge, the Duran, and other places along those lines. So, if you want to find my work, you can find it. It's not too terribly hard at this point in time. So, you can also support my work over at Patreon. And while I know Patreon is compromised and all that, and there are plenty of other platforms coming, I haven't had the time or the resources to get them started. So I'm just kind of marking time here for a couple minutes where we get some people into the stream, and then we'll sit and chat. But you can follow me over at Patreon/Gold, Goats, and Guns, where I just published my 20th issue of my monthly investment newsletter called, appropriately enough, Gold, Goats, and Guns. All right. Let's talk about Julian Assange. And I'm not going to talk about his legal stuff because I'm no legal scholar. I only really follow these things from a political and cultural imperative. It's very important that we look at it from that perspective. There's going to be far greater minds than I that understand his legal situation, and I'm sure he does as well. So, Julian Assange is being made an example of. It's really that simple. We've known this day was coming for a while. We've thought at times that maybe Donald Trump would be willing to use him as an asset against the deep state and whatnot. I would absolutely remove all of that from your thinking. He was arrested and convicted within 4 hours for evading a warrant for his arrest issued in the UK ages ago. And he's been holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy, as we all know. And so now the question is, why this? Why now? Why all of these things? This was a bipartisan move by the U.S. and the UK deep state. We all know this. Apparently, the new government in Ecuador was either the new government in Ecuador was complicit in this from the beginning and were helped to power in order to end this stalemate, or we finally raised the stakes on Ecuador. And I think that's probably the more reasonable assumption now, because with the collapse of Russiagate, it's very important that we kind of look at this from a narrative perspective. And why would they do this now? And there's a number of reasons why they would do this now. But let's stick with the main one, which is that with the publishing of the Mueller report, the Russiagate scenario, that narrative, which was always nonsense, has now collapsed completely. And I remember when this first hit the news wires, I think I mentioned this on one of my live streams, that we were talking about the Mueller report, and immediately somebody asked me, well, we were talking about it, and Julian Assange's name came up. And I think I said then on one of my live streams, literally that evening, the day the Mueller report came out, is like, look, at some point they're going to try and shift the narrative away from Trump is complicit with Putin to no, Julian Assange was his enabler the entire time, and then trying to continue to play that, to morph the narrative into that. And I can see that when I trolled Twitter this morning, that's exactly what I was seeing from all of the usual suspects who were obviously and outed to be on the payroll for people like George Soros, the Krasenstein brothers, and others, saying, this is what this is all about. We're now gonna tie WikiLeaks to Trump to Assange, and it's gonna get really convoluted and really complicated, and because that's all they've got, and it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work for one basic reason. They sold us on a narrative. Political narratives have to be very simple. Okay? One of the things about all of this. And one of the problems that I have as a content creator is that these narratives are incredibly complex. Understanding all the moves and everybody's agendas and what's happening, and distilling that down into a rational and simple story that you can tell in 800 to 1,000 words on a regular basis, or 15 to 20 minutes on a regular basis, is very, very difficult. Only very few people can do it, and I think I'm one of the few people who can do it well. Now, what's most important about this, however, is that the Russiagate collusion story was a simple narrative. Donald Trump is in pay, is in the pay of Vladimir Putin, and Putin, who had motive and means and opportunity to commit the crime, created Manchurian candidate Trump and got him elected and stopped Hillary Clinton from becoming the first female president. This was the story they sold us for 2.5 years. And if there's one thing you know when you're watching a story unfold, doesn't matter what kind of story, doesn't matter how convoluted the story, but as an editor and as a consumer of stories, which we all are on a daily basis, you have to keep your narratives simple and direct. You have to have a logical progression from scene to scene to scene. And there is no logical progression here, tying all the way back in a looping way back to 2016, okay, and try and bring Julian Assange back into this. Julian Assange has been out of this narrative for 3 years. If he's been as part of this narrative, it's been on the part of the MAGA crowd to exonerate Trump, because we think, or I'm not that I'm part of the MAGA crowd anymore, but that the skeptics of Russiagate have been saying for 3 years now that Julian Assange has got the goods. The only reason he hasn't given it up at this point because he's hoping for a deal with Trump to get out of the embassy with his hide intact. So that's what they're playing now. That's the scenario. Martin Armstrong, for the most part, confirmed it this morning in a blog post, saying that the scuttlebutt that he's heard behind the scenes, and his sources are far better than just about anybody else's I would care to even countenance, said that this is payback. This is the DNC morphing the story, is payback for Assange helping scuttle Hillary's chances of winning. And moreover, it's also a means by which the UK deep state can protect itself, because they're implicated all the way up and down the line in Russiagate. The whole Russiagate scenario, all the corruption of the FBI, the CIA, the Justice Department up and down, all of that ties right back to MI6 and MI5. Let's not kid ourselves. It all goes through those people. And so when you tie this back to the betrayal of Brexit that happened on Wednesday night, you realize why Theresa May and her cabinet refused to give up power. It's because this had to finish. This is all about continuing this anti-Russian narrative that's as much a part of the UK deep state, as much as a part of their identity as it is the Americans' identity. Okay? You can't separate the two of them here. And if you look at what's been happening for the last 2 years since Theresa May has been in power, you see a further radicalization, an absolute radicalization to the point of ludicrousness on the part of UK Defense Minister Gavin Williamson, saying the most outrageous things about the Russians, the most outrageous lies, and why Brexit has to be scuttled. And I've even said this before, that part of the reason that Brexit needs to be scuttled and extended and extended and extended is because the UK deep state does not want a Brexiteer government of any form, certainly not Jeremy, even if it's Jeremy Corbyn's loony Labour Party. They would open up a relationship with Russia, and moreover, they would also open up an investigation into the corruption perpetrated under the Tories, under Theresa May. So all of this has to be extended and pretended, if not to save the skins of the very politicians who were the architects of all this shit in the first place. So it's even deeper than just Julian Assange, them getting revenge on Julian Assange. This is about now trying to shift the Overton window as well as shift blame. Okay? So, where are we with this? Well, like with Brexit and the European Commission, we speculated for weeks that, well, maybe the Eurosceptics will veto an extension. Why would the Eurosceptics veto an extension to the Brexit process? They can, Matteo Salvini and Viktor Orban and the rest of them, they can see that that the Brits are most likely going to elect a plurality of hardcore, angry Eurosceptics to the European Commission, to the European Parliament. That only feeds their desire to try and take over the European Commission. 45 or 50 Nigel Farages, doing Orban and Salvini's work. Those guys are political allies. Why would you thumb your nose at them? You want them on your side. So the same thing is going on with Julian Assange. You're not going to see any help from Donald Trump over Julian Assange because them going after Julian Assange this way, for these reasons, helps Trump. It helps exonerate Trump. Because what's the worst that happens here? They have to put Julian Assange on trial, which they won't do. They'll just lock him up in a hole for contempt, and he'll never see the light of day, just like Paul Manafort. He'll be under a gag order. He'll be remanded to Guantanamo and waterboarded until he changes sex, like they did to friggin' Chelsea Manning. So that's the narrative. That's what's going on. And Trump is going to Trump is going to let this go for as long as possible. Why would he pardon Assange? Why would he lift a finger to help Assange at this point? It doesn't do him any good. It actually would then it would actually validate the loopy narrative that they just created. So he's going to sit on the sidelines and do nothing. He's going to let this play out. He's going to let the traffic splash by. Not going to do a thing. Not going to lift a finger for Julian Assange. Maybe after he's reelected in 2020 and it doesn't matter anymore, then he might, commute a sentence to time served or whatever, and because he can't pardon him. Because Trump doesn't believe that he should pardon him because Trump thinks he's guilty, or at least as far as I can tell. There's no way they'll allow him to pardon Julian Assange. But nothing good is going to come of this until after 2020. So now, what they've done, though, is they've created a martyr. They've created a hero. The empire can never not do what they're doing. It's like, it's funny. I keep bringing up V for Vendetta whenever I talk about these things, right? I keep going back to that one moment towards the end of the second act in V for Vendetta when John Hurt, the chancellor, says, we need to have an all-out blitz. We need to stop this insurrection in the bud. We need to remind them why they need us. And they ramp up the Project Fear to 11. They go to Plaid. It's freaking ridiculous. And what's great about the montage is that, of course, at one point, there's the one British family whose little girl eventually gets shot and starts the whole popular uprising, V uprising. They're sitting there watching this on the TV, and the father just turns around and goes, "Oh, bollocks," and turns it off and walks away. And they're going to cut away. But you can see he's jacked out. He's no longer in the Matrix anymore. And that's what they're doing with Julian Assange. It's just another example of how they're going to create and mint new radicals, new citizen journalists every day. And we, as the quote-unquote resistance or counterculture or whatever you want to call it, the alternative press, we have to put our big boy pants on. We need to do away with childish things like the Q-tards and MAGA and the fact that we think Trump is going to help us or any of this stuff. There are no heroes. Julian Assange is not going to convict Hillary Clinton. Okay? If WikiLeaks has anything on these people, they should release all of it immediately. They have nothing left because there's nothing that he's got as a card to play right now that he's out of the embassy that would have greater value than him dumping everything on the market. And if he holds his cards for too long, he's going to be useless. I know Trump has already thrown Assange under the bus. Now, I'm reading comments as they come through. I know all that. And I know that Trump is rapidly turning into a tyrant that does not care about anything other than get reelected. YouTube won't let me like your video? Huh. I'm not surprised about that. I can tell you flat out that since I started doing all of these as live streams, that my growth of the channel has stopped completely. Completely. So, it is important to share this. It is important to get the link and share it. And share it across social media like Reddit and other platforms other than Twitter and Facebook, because they're useless. Okay? So, that's where we are. So, Assange should never he should not hold back at this point. Unless he's got something going on behind the scenes. I don't think he does. And to be honest with you, he's got to have something, he's got to have the goods to burn these people down. And the truth the truth of the matter is that the possibility here is that he doesn't. That he's got nothing. And we have to be prepared for that as well. We have to be prepared that even if he has something that would, for example, validate, on top of all of the validation that's already occurred, validate all of the Lee Stranahan's and the Lucy Commissar's work about Bill Browder and the Trump Tower meeting and all of that stuff, which is all great investigative journalism on their part. And even if WikiLeaks has the stuff that can tie all that and the hack to Seth Rich and to this and to that, all of those things, who cares? Does it seem to matter? The bad guys keep getting away. And that's the bigger point. The bigger point here is that it's not about the specifics. It's not about getting the story right. No offense to Lee. He's one of my greatest allies in this, and one of the and one of the people I'm so happy I've met through the process of doing this job. That but at the end of the day, does it seem to matter? It does if you can wake people up. From that perspective, it wakes people up. But as far as like proving that Hillary Clinton's a criminal, whatever, she's a criminal. We know she's a criminal. She don't look like she's going to jail unless Assange has got stuff that's so bad. And we'll know whether he does or he doesn't by the process this thing takes. He's going to be held under lock and key. He's not going to be able to make statements. Okay? Edwin Smith, you're asking the question I've already said. What if they bury Assange in a dark hole and won't let him communicate with anyone? Does he have failsafe to dump the data? Apparently, yes. But here's the gig. What if what he has isn't all that impressive? We've been assuming that for 2.5 years now, or 3 years now. What if he doesn't have anything really interesting? You have to think in those terms. What if this has all been not a con job, but people out over their skis hoping that they were going to get the goods necessary to properly free Julian Assange? Or does he have the goods and the Democrats are panicking and the deep state's panicking? It's possible. But the way they've been acting, I'm not. I can see both sides, right? And we'll know as this thing plays itself out. It's possible that they prosecute Assange and then give him a full suspended sentence. If during the trial all of the malfeasance becomes part of the legal record and it becomes public knowledge as everybody watches the freaking show trial, and if that happens, well then Katie barred the door. This thing opens up. But I think he should just release everything and let the chips fall where they may. Because if he's really interested in helping people, really interested in helping all of it, he should release everything now and take the consequences. Because his life's over. Once he's in the hands of the Americans, he's now in the hands of the Brits, his life is over. So Krypton 7, I'm with you. I don't believe in 4D chess stuff, that he's Orange Obama. Well, I'm not Liz Sandy says, she's hopeful. I'm not. I want you to be hopeful that we're going to be inspired to do the right thing. Okay? That we are going to stand up and continue to do what we're doing. Do I think that Assange has a dead man switch? I do. The bigger question is, again, is it a dead man switch worth turning? I don't know. But it's not looking good at this point. We'll see. I mean, I could be overreacting to that. But don't underestimate the Brexit angle on this. Don't underestimate the British deep state angle on this. Don't underestimate any of these things. So. Mike Bernard is sending me a link from Zero Hedge article I missed yesterday. Hold on for a second. I'm going to pop this up. John Bolton took money from Clinton Foundation donor. Banks tied to cartels, terrorists in Iran by disobedient media. I haven't read this article yet. I'm going to have to. Oh God! And look who's involved: HSBC, Deutsche Bank, the Clinton Financial. So, yeah. Do I think the 9/11 truth was given to him by Russia? It's possible. It's possible. Because the Russians can't release data like that. No one would believe them. I mean, I think that's axiomatic at this point. That's part of the other part of the reason why they have to continually demonize Russia. And they cannot allow any air in that narrative to keep people as radicalized against Russia as possible. Because when all of this stuff comes out, they can easily just blame it on Vladimir Putin. That's the whole. That's their out. And I want you to understand that, like Brexit, what these people don't realize what they're doing. They really are that dumb. Okay? They're clever, but they're really stupid. Because what they're doing is they're radicalizing the very people that they're trying to convince. They're minting new citizen journalists. It's like governments that crack down on dissenters. You create new terrorists. You know, when you shoot a father in the head, the son becomes a terrorist. I mean, Attack of the Clones may be one of the worst movies ever made, but got news for you. Shooting Jango, beheading Jango Fett, created Boba Fett. That's the image, right? Like, terrible movie, great image of the 9-year-old or the young Boba Fett picking up the father's helmet. Okay? That's where we are. And these guys never learn. They just think we shoot one more person, we make one more example of somebody, we shoot one more person, we will get order. We will cow them into order. It's not going to happen. It's going to backfire on them terribly. It's going to backfire on them. This is a really dumb move. The best thing to do is to have left Julian Assange to rot in the Ecuadorian embassy and let people forget about him. Best thing they could have done. Yeah, they are, as I've always said, Stan, you're right. They are very smart. They may be the smartest people in the room, but they're not very clever, and they're not smarter than the room. Right? These are the things I say all the time, right? They may be the smartest people in the room. They may be the most vicious and the most evil and the most conniving and the most Machiavellian and all this stuff, and they may have all the moves planned out. But they're not clever. They only use tactics that they've used that have been successful in the past. That's why nuts and sluts work so well. Right? I've talked about this many times. That when you want to marginalize someone, what did they do to marginalize Julian Assange? It's the first thing they did. They accused him of sexual deviance. The best they could get him on was that, he had sex with a couple of Swedish hotties. I agree, Robert Johnson, that it's people versus the state, and they seem desperate. More importantly, one of the things I've got an article into editorial over at Money Markets. I literally finished like 20 minutes ago, or 20 minutes before I hit the play button, saying that the big realignment that's happening in British politics, and this is very important because it's kind of the same thing that's happening here, and it's something that Lee Stranahan and I have talked about multiple times, which is that we're seeing a move away from the traditional left-right, Republican versus Democrat, Tory versus Labor. That's not the alignment anymore. The alignment now is sovereignty versus globalism, or populism, as Lee would put it, versus globalism. I think I would rather call it sovereignty. because populism is their term. And they want to call us national populists. And so again, I hate that freaking term. Sovereigntists. We believe in sovereignty. We believe in the rights of self-government, self-governance. And that's what separates us from the other side. And the other side are a bunch of quislings and a bunch of Vichys. What they are. People like Brian Krasenstein they're no different than Vichy French in the Second World War. They're no different than what's the term? What was the term for U.S. loyalists during the Revolutionary War? I can't believe the term is slipping my mind now. It's killing me, right? But so it's the same thing, and that realignment is what's changing the world. Is what's changing European politics and American politics. And what's dangerous about doing this with Julian Assange 12 hours after Theresa May just destroyed Brexit and just betrayed 17.4 million people. Both Labour and Tory voters here. That shifts them. Wait to see what happens in the European parliamentary elections in 5 weeks. Could be the biggest political earthquake we've seen yet. The European parliamentary elections are shaping up to be huge, and Julian Assange could be the catalyst. It could galvanize an entire 5, 6, 7, 8% of the population of Britain to vote Eurosceptic in a way that they weren't ready to vote for before. Even if it's just out of disgust and I'm not going to vote for the Tories, and they vote for Nigel Farage's Brexit party. But all of this happening at the same time is terrible. And Farage is smart. He keep his mouth shut about Julian Assange completely. I know what will come out of his mouth. He will take the Trumpian line. They were referred to as Tories. You're right. Thank you. I thought it was a different term. I'm sorry. Thank you, Oliver Caro. Mimic the judo master. Bingo. Wait for your opponent to overcommit. They just did. I think they just overcommitted. Good afternoon, Edward Abbey. Oh, by the way, started listening to the Rush rips that you did for me, dude. Very good. 2112 sounded amazing. So, really good, especially the older stuff that was originally recorded analog. And I don't even have great speakers, but I could hear the difference. So, yeah, really, really. I mean, I'm angry about this, guys. Don't get me wrong, but as I tweeted out earlier, like, I'm already so angry at these people. I'm already so black-pilled and so cynical. I mean, hearing about this last night, my pulse didn't even rise. I mean, nothing shocks me anymore. It's really kind of sad. I mean, I talk to my friend and partner in Gold, Guts, and Guns all the time. I'm married, by the way, for those of you who don't know, to the most wonderful woman in the world. But my friend and business partner in Gold, Guts, and Guns, he says to me all the time, he's like, Tom, people really can't be this dumb, can they? And I'm like, yeah, man, they can. No, Tom, really, they can't be this dumb. I'm like, dude. Yeah, they can. No, Tom, come on. Seriously, man. They can't be this dumb. So, man, gotta tell you, when you watch the Empire make these kinds of mistakes, you're both happy and sad. I feel terrible for Julian Assange. I feel terrible for his family, obviously, and all of that stuff. And the enormity of this is so overwhelming that you almost can't react to it. I can't react to it. If I were to actually sit down, process my feelings about what's going on here, you don't want to see it. And I wouldn't be able to function. I've got I've got too much to write about. I've got too many people expecting. I've got too much expectation for me to be the rational one, or at least reasonably rational one in all of this. I can't do it. I'm not allowed to grieve. I don't have time to grieve for the loss of my society. I just don't. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, this isn't therapy for me. This is, it's a job, unfortunately. I wish I could just, rant every once in a while during the live streams on Monday nights and Friday nights, by the way. Yeah, a little bit of therapy happens, but for the most part, this isn't therapy anymore. This is just a grudge match. Hey, Tom. The UK has turned up the heat. It's turning bad here real fast. Watch it get worse very rapidly. I'm accelerating my plans to get out, and I'm not worried, but the plan B has just become plan A. I don't think that Donald Trump has it in for him either, Adam Wigger. I don't think he has it in for him. I just see that Trump is not going to do anything to help Assange here. Because why would he? Tactically and strategically, it's not in Trump's best interest. And don't kid yourself. When you're as captured and corrupt and compromised as Trump is, you're not going to make a move here. Maybe when the political costs are low, he'll do something. But other than that, So Tone Loke 3000 is asking me, hey, Tom, have you brought WikiLeaks Iraq helicopter video? Brought or seen? I haven't seen it. I think we've reached desperation point. I think I remember, in my newsletter a couple months ago, I wrote an entire issue based around the idea that there is no plan B. This is the last thing we talk about. Because, it never hurts to pimp the newsletter just a little bit. And it is all original content, on top of the staggering amount of content I already produce. And there, I said, look, there's no plan B here. They don't have a plan B. Everybody's on autopilot, doing their thing. They all have their agendas, and those agendas are clashing everywhere. And they're all running into each other, and it's all a mess. And no one's going to change, okay? Because everybody wants to win. And when everybody wants to win, and the only way they know how to win is to continue doing what they've been doing, then when you sit back and you watch what's happening, you go, well, the only outcome is blah. The most likely outcome is blah. You never want to say only outcome. So the most likely outcome is, well, this, or that, or that, or that. And then you start assigning probabilities of what's going to happen, and boom, and there you are. And what that is complete and utter political and financial chaos. That's what's coming. And that's the only thing that we've got. They released helicopter video of U.S. Army laughing at killing Iraqis. So it looks no different than the scene from Full Metal Jacket with the Huey gunner saying, "You guys should do a story about me." Why? Because I done got me 157 dead gooks killed. And them's all certified. And 50 water buffalo too. Yeah. Get some! Get some! Get some! That guy. That guy's awesome. In his depravity. Yeah. How do anyone who runs is a VC. Anyone who doesn't run is a well-disciplined VC. Yeah, that guy. It's one of the best scenes in the movie. Trump is weak, Robert Johnson. He's already weak. Bad shit happens in war. It's why you should always be wary of starting one. Tell that to John Bolton. He don't give a damn because he's not going to pay it. He's not going to pay the price. He gets to walk around in his $2,000 trench coats and groom his mustache while he destroys people's lives. He's happy. He's getting what he wants. He's got power. He's got money. He's got fame. He's got it all. I agree, Stan. You know when it's in a movie. It's another thing to see it for real. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's disgusting. But it's true. I mean, war does things to people, and I don't even blame the soldiers for living that, for being that way, to be honest with you. What else are you going to do? You're going to stand there and go, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I'm saying, no, you're going to... Laughing is and making fun of it and dehumanizing him is the only coping mechanism you have when you've been turned into a mass murderer. And if you don't think that anybody listening, watching this stream right now couldn't be reduced to that state under those circumstances, you're fooling yourself. In one pithy sentence, Maria Zakharova, the spokeswoman for the Russian Ministry of the Russian Foreign Ministry, said it best: "The hand of democracy is squeezing the throat of freedom." Very nice. I like Maria; she's awesome, and she can really cut a rug. That woman. Pence is the real president. Trump is surrendered to the swamp. Blair, John Bolton's been president for over a year, love. That's why he was brought in. I don't even think Pence is... He's not president. John Bolton is. Shane says he's got zero faith left in our government and justice system. Of course, that's the whole... And that's, by the way, that's part of the plan. That's the win-win part of this for the bad guys. Because remember that they're just... they want you to lose faith in all this, because what they want to do is then, once you've lost faith in it all, then they're going to hand you the straw man opposite argument, which is, well, look, we have this unelected bureaucracy in Brussels that works really well. Don't you see how well this works, how united they are, and how benevolent they are as your dictators? Don't you understand? Did you understand what's wrong? What's wrong with you? Why don't you understand? It's insane. So, all right, we're at 37 minutes. This is not supposed to be my normal show that I'm supposed to go on for ever in a day. This is supposed to be the short news. Well, we're at 37 minutes, but it's a big story. So, thank you all for coming by today. We'll pick this up on tomorrow night at 8:30, and then obviously, because that's when I do my regular show on Monday nights, Friday nights at 8:30, and Monday nights at 8 p.m. This has been the Gold Ghosts and Guns short news. If you like what you heard today, please give a like and subscribe down below. Share this across different media if you could. Let people know about the channel. And bang the bell for notifications so you can intermittently get some notifications from YouTube. Also, we got 60 people in the stream right now. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to go over to and look up DLive, which is a blockchain-based streaming service that PewDiePie, by the way, is moving over to. Big news yesterday. And I'm going to start looking seriously at moving my operation over there, because it's not like I'm monetized over here, and it's not like I have any hope of being monetized. So that's not what this channel's for. It's about dispensing information and turning people into and converting people into customers who get value. So there you go. All right, you guys take care. It's been a great chat. Really enjoyed it. And keep your stick on the ice.